All right, we're rolling. All right, welcome to the Podcast Engineering Show. Hope you're doing great. My name is Chris Curran. I produce podcasts for companies, and I also teach at Podcast Engineering School. Every week on this show, we bring you podcast production techniques on a silver platter. We alternate between interviews with podcast producers and engineers and daily goody episodes like this one, where I'm going to talk to you about 12 to 13 of the daily goody blog posts that I write every day. And you can sign up to receive these daily goodies via email. You can receive them daily or weekly, a weekly roundup. Sign up at podcastengineeringschool.com. And FYI, the next Podcast Engineering School semester starts April 28th, 2020. All right, before we get into the daily goodies, I just got back from PodFest, which was awesome. It was March 6th to 8th, 2020, and I just got back. It was really great. As always, PodFest is always a great event. It was a little different than years before. I think it was bigger, and they had a lot of different things going on. I'm not going to do a whole recap of the whole conference, but it was really cool, and got to see a lot of friends, so glad to meet up with all my podcast industry friends. And looks like that conference got in just before it seems like the whole world is canceling every conference because of the virus. Okay, next thing, I was a guest on the Johny Podcast Podcast. Actually, I shouldn't say that because I was playing a character. I don't know, it's hard to explain, but if you want to listen, it was a very brief episode, 15 minutes, I think. And it was really funny. So the Johny Podcast, and that's done by Dan Hughley, my friend. So check it out. And also, right now, I'm speaking into a Sennheiser MKH416 shotgun microphone. And I just, FYI, I also turned off the analog limiters on my MixPre 6. And again, I'm just trying things. So lately what I've been doing, especially with the live streaming stuff, I've been trying to come up with a new configuration as far as a microphone. I've been trying to stick to dynamic microphones and also microphone placement because, when you live stream, you're on camera, so then it has to look decent. And so I've been just, messing around with all that. Oh, and the other thing is getting the signal level to the proper level for streaming, which, requires some compression and limiting before it goes out. Anyway, we're not going to get into that too deep right now. But anyway, one thing with using all these dynamic mics is I've been missing the clarity. So that's why I broke out the Sennheiser 416 and I got it pointing to the side of my mouth, to the corner of my mouth, kind of. And it's pretty close, though. And, of course, so my plosives, please, are going past the microphone. All right, anyway, just wanted to let you know what mic. And I don't think I'm going to do a lot of post-production with this sound. In fact, I think I might actually publish it raw. But anyway, if you're curious what I did to it, just ping me on social media after you hear this episode, and I'll tell you what I did to my voice, if anything. Okay, so let's get into the daily goodies. Here we go. You ready? All right, we're starting with January 17th. How to use the loopback feature on the Focusrite Scarlett 3rd Gen interfaces. Okay, so on the Focusrite Scarlett 3rd Gen interfaces, there's a little software that comes along with it, which is called loopback, and it's called Focusrite Control. Yeah, it's called Focusrite Control. That's the software where you can control your inputs and outputs through the Focusrite interface. And there's a loopback feature which lets you record other audio sources from within your computer. So, for instance, a web browser. So let's say you're connected with someone on Squadcast and you want to record them locally on their own track. Well, this Focusrite Control's loopback feature helps you do that. And there's links to it in this daily goodie, and you could just look it up as well. So if you do have a Focusrite, check it out. It seems to be pretty cool. I haven't done it yet, but, again, it seems really handy if you need to do something like this. All right, next daily goodie. processing a guest that keeps drifting on and off mic. Yeah, you've heard guests like that. They're right on the mic, and then they're way over here off the mic, and then they're really close to the mic, and then they're way over here off the mic, and then they're really close to the mic, and then they're way over here off the mic. Okay, you get the idea. Well, what happens when a person drifts on and off the mic? Well, the tone of the sound changes drastically. When the person is close to the mic, the mic will sound fine. It'll sound pretty normal and good. But when someone drifts off mic, the tone changes a lot. It has much less presence and clarity, and it has definitely quite a bit more room noise or room reverb. So look, proper microphone technique will take care of this, but as usual, guests who join podcasts don't always have good mic technique. So one strategy you can use in post-production, one strategy you can use on someone who has bad mic technique is, number one, first, level it generally. So that means use a compressor with a longer release time, or, use an automatic vocal rider plugin, but sort of even out the levels in general first, and then use a multiband compressor to try to even out the major tone differences. So that's a handy trick to know. It's not easy. Like, you have to set the parameters of those compressors pretty well. I mean, specifically, you can't just throw them on there and expect it's going to sound great. So, again, that's a major process you're doing. You're trying to save a bad recording and make it sound good. So you got to definitely make sure you have all the settings right in whatever compressors and multiband compressors you're using. Next daily goodie. If someone has a bazillion ums and you remove them all. Did you ever do that? Have a guest that records and they have a bazillion ums. What happens is, if you remove all of them, it can actually change the whole vibe of the guest's speech. So sometimes a lot of times when someone uses the word a lot, their pacing tends to be slow. It tends to be a little slower than average. Yeah, you see, I just did 3 ums with a slower pace, and you heard how the whole show came to a dead halt. The energy just got sucked out of the room. Whatever. Oh, here comes the HVAC system on my unit across the basement. So I think you could probably hear that in the background a little bit. So that's one thing with using this 416. I'm going to have to maybe figure out a way to insulate this room a little more than I normally do, or at least not let that sound come all the way across the basement and into the mic. But anyway, someone with a bazillion ums, you just got to be careful. If you remove too many, if you remove all of them, it might sound really weird. So, you just got to watch out for that. And again, some people you can try to help out a little, but there's only so much you can do, right, in post-production. Okay, next daily goodie. Abbey Road Studio 3 for mixing on headphones. Okay, so Abbey Road Studio 3 is a plugin. I think it's from Waves. Let me just check. Yeah, it's from Waves. Abbey Road Studio 3. It basically emulates the acoustic environment of the legendary Abbey Road Studio 3 control room in your headphones. So you can use this plugin, and if you wear headphones, it'll actually simulate as if you're sitting in the control room at Abbey Road Studio 3. So now, what does that mean? Well, apparently that control room sounds really good, but I'm sure it would take some getting used to. But that could be good for some people who want, if you got used to that listening environment, then, you could use it to make sure your mixes sound really good, to make sure all your mixes sound really good. But anyway, that's an interesting plugin I just wanted to tell you about. Next daily goodie. Producing clients' audio. quality versus quantity. Okay, well, if you're producing audio for someone else, there's quality versus quantity. I mean, obviously, if you strive to produce world-class audio quality for every single episode, it will definitely take much longer to produce episodes, right? But on the other hand, if you strive to produce as many episodes as humanly possible, you'll definitely have to settle for less than great quality audio, right? Because you're just trying to knock them out. So striking a balance here is key, right? You want to produce good sounding audio, but you don't want to take all day to produce one episode or something crazy like that. So that's one thing you have to figure out for yourself, just time yourself as you're producing episodes and, try to produce an episode at really, really high quality and see how long it takes. And maybe try that a couple times, time yourself. And then for other episodes, try to just knock it out quick, right? Try to do the best you can, but knock it out quick and time that. And then see how you feel. I mean, sometimes if you try to produce audio really quickly and it doesn't sound good, that'll bother you. That'll annoy you, right? So maybe you can't produce it that quick. Maybe a medium, a balance between the two is right for you. Yeah, you have to find that for yourself. So, okay, next daily goodie, your computer's input and output settings. Well, every computer has a general input device and output device settings, right? You choose what your input device is or what your input microphone is, and then what your output is, where you're listening. Are you listening, on a USB headset, or are you listening through the main 1/8-inch headphone output, right? So here's one thing I do. Every time I start my computer and every time I restart my computer, I literally, first thing I do is open up the input and output settings of my computer and verify that my input and output devices are set properly. And I do that literally every single time. And it's just a habit now, because there's nothing worse than thinking that you're recording your good microphone when, unbeknownst to you, it's your computer's onboard microphone that's being recorded, right? Yuck. That happens more than you'd like, right? Or more than should happen in the podcasting world. Someone's talking into a really good mic, but that's not the mic that's being picked up by their computer. So anyway, I make it a ritual. Every time you restart, every time you start, always check your settings. And I literally do it every time. It's just a good habit. All right, then, okay, Chris Williams. Oh, episode 166. That's the next post. But I don't know if you heard that one. Episode 166 with Chris Williams. That was a pretty cool episode. Okay, next daily goodie. SSL2 and SSL2 Plus interfaces. All right, these are new audio interfaces from SSL, which SSL is one of the most revered pro audio companies in the world. They have been for many years, at least 40 years. Probably almost 50 years. I don't know. I think they started somewhere in the 70s, or maybe it was earlier. I don't know. But they released these two interfaces, and they're really nice. They're really good quality. A lot of people I know were sort of waiting for SSL to come out with a budget interface. And I say budget because the SSL2 costs around $230, and the 2 Plus costs around $280. And I'm not going to go into everything about them. Actually, Bandrew Scott from Podcastage, he made a nice video. It's a great video, like going over this and testing it and trying it, all the different modes, and letting you hear how it functions. So check out that video if you want to learn more about these interfaces. And they have it has some cool features, but both of them I think they're both 2 XLR inputs. Or maybe I don't know. I think they're 2 XLR inputs. So, obviously that has a limited use case. If you have more than 2 microphones to plug in, then you can't use that interface. Okay, next daily goodie. When's the last time you cleaned and dusted your studio? Oh, yeah. Cleaning up weekly or monthly works really well. But every now and then, maybe every year or two, it's really good to disconnect all your gear, unplug all the cables, literally clean every cable, clean every piece of gear, vacuum everywhere, and then put everything back together again, and then, and when you do this, full cleaning, it's also a good opportunity to tidy up your cables or even replace cables or upgrade your gear. If you're going to buy a new interface, well, maybe take that opportunity when you're switching out your old interface for your new one. Maybe take that opportunity to clean your entire studio. Maybe. You can also change the placement of your gear, which is what I did recently. I did this recently. I changed my setup and I did that. I unplugged everything, cleaned everything. It was really great. It makes you feel really good when everything is nice and tidy. Next daily goodie is Luna recording system from Universal Audio. Okay, Luna. All right, Universal Audio, we know they make hardware and software. And the Luna recording system is a DAW that they created. Basically, it's only for people who use Universal Audio interfaces and plugins. But anyway, it's new. I think it just came out, or maybe it's coming out soon. But it's a DAW, and again, I don't know if everyone can use it. But if you are using some Universal Audio stuff, if you have an interface or plugins, you could probably use it. I don't know what it costs and stuff, but it's supposed to be pretty cool. Sort of like they're sort of promoting it as like a next generation DAW. I think it has some really cool functionality, but again, we're not going to get really deep into it here. So, but check it out if you want to check out a really new DAW that might be really cool. It's called Luna Recording System. Next daily goodie. Guests connecting online using a Microsoft Surface. Oh boy. Somebody called the rant police. I think something's going to happen here soon. All right. So let's say you're going to record an episode with a remote guest who will be connecting on their Microsoft Surface device. Okay. Well, if they have a strong Wi-Fi signal and they're connecting using Skype or Zoom or FaceTime, then everything should usually function okay. But if they're trying to connect using like Squadcast or Zencaster, there is a chance that the local audio recorded by those services may encounter problems due to the Surface's lack of processor speed, memory, and other factors. Now, some people think that like those Surface devices, they think they are regular computers, but I don't buy that. They're not regular computers. They're little tablets. They might have an operating system. Frankly, I don't care what they have on them, but it's not a computer. It's not comparable to a laptop or a desktop computer. And it's so funny. I've been on sessions with people when I ask them, like, well, what kind of computer are you using? And they're like, oh, it's a Surface Pro or something. And then I'll say something like, oh, okay, so you're connecting on your tablet. And one guy corrected me. He's like, no, it's a computer. And I was like, oh, sorry. But anyway, here's the point. Beware of guests connecting on the Surface and things like that. Okay, I don't know about iPads and stuff. I think that's completely different. I shouldn't say completely different, but I would assume that iPads and stuff are more reliable than a Surface. 100%, because I've done many sessions with both, and Surfaces, Microsoft Surfaces there is often a problem with them. And actually, Brian Ensminger comments, he had the same, by the way, Brian Ensminger from Top Tier Audio, yeah, baby. And Brian Ensminger, who at Podfest gave me the greatest gift of my life, a Blue Yeti. It's actually like a tumbler, like a container to keep hot drinks in and cold drinks. You know, Yeti, that company that makes those tumblers and what do you call them? Not a flask. Oh my God, I can't think of that word. I can't think of the word. Anyway, you get the idea. But Brian Ensminger, greatest gift I ever received. Thank you, Brian. But he said in the comments here, he has had the same kind of experience with Chromebooks. And he's had several sessions using Zencastr and Squadcast where the session went perfectly well until it was time to upload the files, and then it was just an endless game of sit and spin with no completion. So again, even Chromebooks might be an issue with those services that record the audio locally, right? Because, Chromebooks and Surfaces, like, they're not meant, they probably don't have nearly as much RAM as a regular computer and all that stuff. So anyway, you get the idea. Let's move on to the next daily goodie. Oh, wait, are we done? Oh, no, we're almost done. Plugging earbuds directly into a USB microphone. All right, plugging earbuds directly into a USB microphone. Okay, when someone's using a USB mic, which is awesome, it's usually best to plug their earbuds into the microphone itself instead of plugging the earbuds into the computer itself. And this helps avoid any weird playback issues. So what happens is when someone's using a USB mic, they plug their headphones into the microphone itself, and then in the computer's input and output settings, which we just discussed earlier, right, from an earlier daily goodie, they can set their input device to the USB microphone. Let's just say ATR 2100, right? They can set their input device to the ATR 2100, and they can set their output device to the ATR 2100. And that just sort of makes it easy for the computer to understand that the USB mic is both input and output. And it also helps the person understand that the microphone is their input and their output. It's just a more straightforward way to do it. And the reason I wrote this daily goodie is because I actually had a session where the guest had his earbuds plugged into the computer itself, and the microphone he was using was an ATR 2100. And halfway through the session, all of a sudden he couldn't hear us anymore, right? And he was probably on a PC as well. Now that I think about it, I think I remember that. So then we had to stop the whole session, and I just said, hey, you know what? Unplug your earbuds from the computer and plug them into the mic. And so we did that, and then we changed his output device to the mic, and then he could hear us again, and then it was good for the rest of the episode. So I don't know, pretty simple thing, but again, it's one of those things that if you just do it from the outset, you're much less likely to have any problems, right, throughout the episode. Okay, next daily goodie. Guest repositioned her headset mic halfway through. Oh, this is a great one, right? The guest repositioned her headset mic halfway through. Well, we all love headset mics, and when I say headset, I mean the old style headset, like someone from a call center wearing an actual headset over their head, which is different than earbuds, okay? Earbuds are earbuds. A headset is a headset. Anyway, when someone's wearing a headset, it's usually great because they can have the microphone, which usually is coming off one of the ears, right? They can put the microphone pretty much right in front of their mouth, and it's great because the microphone stays in the same position the entire time. And I always tell people, once we start recording, don't move the headset. But of course, people don't listen, and so this woman, halfway through the show, she moved her headset substantially, and the level got much lower. I don't know, she probably pushed the microphone, I'm just guessing, let's say she pushed it up like an inch and a half or 2 inches. So the tone of her voice drastically changed, the level drastically changed. But then she kept it in that second position for the rest of the episode. So what I did in post-production was I just split her file in half. So the first half was the mic in the one position, second half was the mic in the other position, and I literally put them on 2 different tracks, and I made sure I just lined them up all in the right place. And then I just literally processed each half separately with different compression, different EQ for sure, different de-essers for sure, because she had really bad sibilance on the first half. But when she moved the mic, the sibilance wasn't that bad. So it's like I had to mix 2 different sounds, but it ended up, I mixed them so they sounded very similar in the end. And I don't know, maybe the end listener didn't even know that happened. I don't know. But one thing's for sure, if I didn't go through all that trouble, it would have sounded terrible. Like halfway through the episode, her voice would have dropped like 10 dB and it would have been inaudible, right? Okay, last one. The tightness of edits when transitioning into ads and between ads. Okay, the tightness of edits when transitioning into and between ads. All right, so okay, an episode's going, there's conversation happening, and all of a sudden it's time to go into the ads. Well, the transitions make a difference. Like how much space is there between when the person says, okay, well, and here's a word from our sponsors, and then the ad starts. How much space is it? Is it 1 second? Is it 2 seconds? Is it 0.2 seconds? Like, how quick is it, or how slow is it? Now that the space you leave, or the time between between going into the ads and then of course coming out of the ads, that'll impact how the pacing of the episode feels. If you make the cuts really tight, like have very little space in there, you just go from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next. It's like bam, bam, bam. That maintains the energy and the flow, but it can also feel really rushed, and it can negatively impact the listener's comprehension of the ads and stuff, right? Sometimes if it's too fast, people they zone out, right? But if you have longer gaps of silence to make it more understandable, then you bring the energy down. And I don't know, one of the ways I think about that is like it sort of cleanses the palate of the listener if you have a good amount of silence, like even 2 or 3 seconds or 4 seconds. But that's pretty long, so you might not want the whole pacing and energy of the episode to come to a grinding halt. Anyway, you just got to keep these things in mind when you're editing. How tight do you want to edit it? All right, well, that's it. So if you want to receive these daily goodies in your email every day or a weekly roundup, go to the website, podcastengineeringschool.com. And also, I set up a contribution page, sort of to prepare for the future, actually. But if you'd like to support me creating all this content for everyone, you can go to podcastengineeringschool.com/support. And it's kind of cool because I copied Jen Briney from Congressional Dish. I don't know if you know Jen or her show, but she has donation quick links, so you could literally mail me a check or send money through PayPal, Cash App, Venmo. You can even send me Bitcoin or Ethereum. Oh, yeah, baby. I like Bitcoin. Okay. So if you have any questions about any of these daily goodies or anything about your production, right? Any changes you want to make in your production, please either ping me on social media or contact me through the website. There's a contact page, right? So go to podcastengineeringschool.com and just click contact us, and you could send me a note and say, hi, Chris. All right. Well, let's end it there. Thank you for listening. Hope this was valuable. And until next time, sound great. It's a mini grunt.